All right. The Canadian Mental Health Association was founded in 1918, and it's a national charity that helps maintain and improve mental health for all Canadians. So, as a nationwide leader and champion for mental health, CMHA helps people access the community resources they need to build resilience and support recovery from mental illness. So, just a little bit about CMHA. We have three big offices, Fredericton, Moncton, and St. John. And then in the rural parts of New Brunswick, we have the community education coordinator through the province. So my part in New Brunswick is Kent County and Shediac, but there's also someone in Westmoreland, Albert, and in Sussex. So every little area has their own community education coordinator where we give programs and presentation in rural areas. And there's also a program called Certified Peer Support Specialist, and also the employment programs at work and Working Stronger Together in Charlotte County. So what is mental health? So mental health is far bigger than the absence of mental illness. When we talk about mental health, we say that there is no health without mental health. It's a integral part of health. So mental health is determined by the range of socioeconomic, biological, and environmental factors. It's vital for us to protect, restore, and promote mental health and well-being, as they are positively correlated with our ability to think as humans, emote, interact with others, earn a living, and enjoy life. So an individual level of mental health can be controlled by social, psychological, and biological factors at any time. Some examples would be like gender discrimination, social exclusions, unhealthy lifestyle, psychological, specific psychological and personality factors that would make people vulnerable to a mental disorders, and biological, genetic factors that could create an imbalanced chemical in the brain. But also mental health is really how we feel. So do we have good stress? That's what we are going to look at today. So what influences our mental health? And for each one of them, I'm going to go in details in the next few slides. So resilience, work-life balance, positive attitude, mindfulness, self-esteem, physical health are all components that does influence our mental health. The first one we're going to talk about is resilience. So what is resilience? Well, resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. So resilience means coping well with problems, as well as stress and other difficult situations. Problems and stress are usually a normal part of our lives. Resiliency is what helps you look at the situation realistically. Take action when you can make changes, and letting go what you can't control or what you can't change. And recognizing the helpful support in your life. So your resiliency toolkit might include skills like problem solving, assertiveness, balancing obligation and expectations, and developing support network. You can learn more about these skills online in books. I know the library has good books. I do understand that the library is closed now, so we can't go and get some books, but there's always e-books that we can order online. Also, through different community organization and through your healthcare provider. So it's important to set time to think about the resiliency tools that you have. So this might include skills like structured problem solving or people who can help you during difficult situations. And I encourage you guys to write them down because uh, when you're having a hard time, you can go back and check those skills that you have and maybe review your list and think of building some more. Another way to explain resiliency that I really like is if we think of a game, okay, a video game. I'm going to talk about Super Mario. Most people know Super Mario. So at the beginning of the game, little Mario starts walking, and then there's a turtle that comes and bam, gets hit, loses life, and starts from the beginning again. And then we restart the game, right? So Mario's walking, the turtle comes, jump either on top of the turtle or over the turtle, and then you continue. That's a comparison of resiliency in our lives. So sometimes we'll have obstacles. The first obstacles that comes to our life, we might have a harder time or we might fall down, but the second time that we have that obstacle, we'll know how to work around it or how to work around it or use our skills how to go about it. So that's resiliency, how to bounce back. Work-life balance. When we talk about work-life balance, is really what is your balance in your work life and your personal life? Do you have a good balance? So in order to have a good mental health when it comes to work-life balance, you really want to have a good balance between both, okay? When you're at work, and when you're at home, you're at home. You're not checking your emails. You're not putting overtime into during your personal life. So what is that you really want to balance? How does it affect your mental health? Well, when you put too much time at work and not enough time in your personal life, or sometimes you put too much work in your personal life and not enough at work. So it's really unbalanced. You really want a good balance between both. For example, how would you uh, balance that? Uh, don't, especially for personal life, don't schedule activities, too much activities. Have time for yourself and care for yourself at home. Because nowadays we have so much to do. We have children, we have parents, we might even have grandparents that we can take care of. And then all the activities for the children and our activities are all our volunteer. And then we become swamped, and that can lead to burnout. So as for life, sometimes we have too much demands from upper management. And if we have too much demands and we don't have time to take breaks or even take our vacation, that can really affect our mental health. So it's important to balance that life. There's also holistic balance. So when we think about holistic balance, we think about all our life in general. So our social life, our mental life, um, our physical health. So are we balancing it right? So if we would have a wheel and we'd put everything on our wheel at, let's say the middle is where we put everything on our wheel and then we connect the dots. The middle is that we are too busy, and at the end of the circle, it's we are less busy. So, or what we value. Does our wheel roll? If we would put it on a bicycle, would it go well? I know that wasn't a good explanation, but I'm sorry about that. But holistic life is really all about our life. So that has a work-life balance has a big influence on our mental health. The next one is positive attitude. So what is positive attitude? You can't live a positive life with a negative attitude. So usually we often see, is your glass half empty or half full? How you answer this age-old question about positive thinking may reflect your outlook on life, your attitude towards yourself, and whether you're optimistic or pessimistic. And it could affect your health. So positive thinking that typically comes with optimism is a key part of effective stress management. And effective stress management is associated with many health benefits. Positive thinking doesn't mean you have your head in the sand. It means that you look at approaching unpleasant things in a more positive and productive way. You think the best is going to happen rather than the most. Positive thinking usually starts with self-talk. This is endless stream of unspoken thoughts that run through your head. These automatic thoughts can be positive or negative. Some of self-talk comes from logic and reasons. The other may come from misconception that we create through lack of information. So when we have positive thinking or positive thoughts, that really helps with our positive attitude. And when we have a positive attitude, it's more pleasant for people around us. And there's also a lot of benefits of positive attitudes. It increases lifespans, it lower rates of depression, lower rates of distress, provides a greater resistance to common cold, provides you better psychological and physical well-being, and it also reduces death from cardiovascular disease, and you have better coping skills in hardship and times of stress. So, are you a positive thinker or a negative thinker? So I always thought that I was a positive person until I did this presentation and we started talking about what I'm going to talk next. And then I was thinking, maybe I'm not as positive as I thought I was. So here are common forms of negative thought. The first one is filtering. A person would magnify the negative aspect of a situation and filter out all the positive ones. The second one would be personalization. When something bad happens, you automatically blame yourself. There's also catastrophizing. You automatically anticipate the worst. Polarizing. You see things only good or bad. There is no ground middle. So you can learn to turn your negative thinking into positive. It takes time and practice, and you can create a new habit. So I'm just going to go through a few ways how we could change our positive to be positive instead of negative. So identify areas to change. So if you want to become more optimistic and engage in more positive thinking, first, identify areas of your life that you typically think negatively. So you can have a negative thinking at work, or maybe in your daily commute, home, or relationship. So start small by focusing on one area to approach in more positive way. So let's say work. If you're unhappy at work, it's hard to have a positive attitude, right? So at that moment, that would be the one that you would concentrate on. It's important to just concentrate on little bits of things in order. You can't change it all in all at once. You have to break it down. Okay, so maybe start with the work, and then your personal life, and then your daily commute. Okay, check yourself periodically during the day. Stop and evaluate what you're thinking. If you find that your thoughts are mainly negative, try to find a way to put positive spin over them. So we are all living in quarantine at the moment for the past several weeks. We can have two ways of thinking about it. We can think about it as we are in jail, we are stuck in the house. If we have that negative attitude, we are not going to have a pleasant experience. Not that it's a pleasant experience, but we are going to get depressed. We are going to be more stressed. But if we think it as the positive side of it, it's we're being secured at home. We are being safe at home and trying to follow the province guideline by cutting the curb. And we've seen that it works. So we are, by saying that we are safe at home, we'll have more of a positive attitude, and we might look at more positive stuff that we can do instead of just staying in our couch on our couch and complaining. We might go take a walk in our backyard or things like that. So it's really changing our mindset for a positive attitude. Be open to humor. Give yourself permission to smile and laugh, especially during difficult times. Seek humor every day. When you can laugh at life, you feel less stress. And that is a good coping strategy to reduce stress is laughing. Follow a healthy lifestyle, so exercise at least 3 times a week. It can have a positive effect on your mood and reduce stress. And also having a healthy diet, it helps fuel your mind and your body, and learn techniques to work to manage your stress. Surround yourself with positive people. I know right now it's very hard because we can't see people physically, but we have all kinds of technology that we can FaceTime or Zoom with certain people, and it's important that those persons that we surround ourselves in positive people. I always say if you buy a bag of oranges and there's an orange that is I forget the word, a rotten orange, then it would, all the other orange will become bad. Well, it's almost the same if there's a group of people and there's a negative person in the group, that can kill the mood. And if you're with that person too long, you can you can get a more negative attitude. And for the last one, practice positive self-talk. Follow one rule. Don't say anything to yourself that you wouldn't say to someone else. Be gentle and encourage yourself. If a negative thought enters your mind, evaluate rationally and respond with affirmation of what is good about you. The next thing that influences our mental health is mindfulness. So how do you practice mindfulness? Mindfulness is actually, I'm just going to give you an example before I give you the definition. Has it ever happened to you that you spend, let's say, half an hour to an hour, maybe even half of the day, cooking a good meal? Maybe it's some kind of seafood linguine or a turkey dinner, and it takes you a good amount of your day. Then you're all proud of your meal. You sit down, eat your meal, takes about 10-15 minutes, and you didn't even you tasted it, but you didn't really enjoy your meal, right? So everything is done, you pick up your plate, you go wash the dishes, and we're, some people are mindful while they're eating, but some others are not. And I'm one of them that is not mindful while I'm eating. So I eat and then I didn't even taste my food. So mindfulness is really being in the present time, not thinking about the future, not thinking of the past, just enjoying the present time. Using our five senses. So, like I'm saying about the meals, take time to chew your food. Take time to taste all the herb. If you put herbs in your food or garlic, take time to taste all the taste in the food. Uh, Also, the textures that goes in your mouth, the smell out of the food, the appreciation that we have that food. So mindfulness is really being in the present time at the present moment. That really helps. By being mindful, it really helps our mental health. Just also, if we're stuck in traffic, at traffic light, sometimes our mind will wander, or we might get frustrated, or we might get stressed. But if we take a moment and just see the beauty around us and appreciate it, if maybe there is a bird that passes by, if your window's down, maybe you can hear the birds, maybe not in traffic because of all the cars, but try to see the positive out of the situation and be mindful of what's going on. Self-esteem. What is self-esteem? So just 1 second, I'm just gonna change my notes. So self-esteem is more than just seeing your good qualities. It's being able to see all your abilities, your weaknesses, and accepting them, because we all have faults and we all have strengths, and doing your best with what you have. Self-esteem means recognizing your unique talents and abilities and using that confidence to follow your goals and interests without comparing yourself. So a little activity that you can do is take a good look at your good points, and you can write it down when you have time. So you can do some reflection also at this time. So what do you do best? Excuse me. What are your skills and interests? How would a friend describe you? Now look more at your weak point. What do you have difficulty doing? What makes you frustrated? Now, which list was easier to write? Remember that all of us have positive and negative side. We build confidence by developing our weaker areas and regular reading, reminding ourselves of the things we're comfortable and proud of. So if we think of self-esteem, if we want to raise our self-esteem, usually self-esteem or negative self-esteem comes from maybe something that we heard in our childhood, uh, and we always had that thought in our mind. It stayed with us, but it's something to work on. Okay, and at different times also through life, we will have good self-esteem, and other times we will have a low self-esteem. Okay, so it's almost like a mountain, a Russian mountain. So by having a better or good self-esteem, that really influences your mental health. Physical health, right? We can't forget physical health, because mental health and physical health does go together. So what is physical health? Is everything connected? The mind and body are connected, and when we begin to improve our physical health, we begin to experience greater mental health. Exercise not only strengthens our heart and lungs, but it also releases endorphins, powerful chemicals that energize us and lift our spirit. So if you go take a nice walk in the nature or even on the road, when you come back, you feel so good and you have so much more energy. So that just proves you that exercising can help with your mental health. A few tips: it's important to get rest. Most people need about 8 hours of sleep, most adults, but that can be different from one individual to another. Learn about good nutrition. Not only learn about it, but also practice it. So that's easy to put into practice. But the more you learn about what you eat and how it affects your energy level, the more and better you will feel. Like I said earlier, exercising is also an excellent treatment for mild to moderate anxiety and depression. Is essential. Exercise is a powerful antidote to stress, anxiety, and depression. Look at the small ways you can increase activity in your day, like using maybe the stairs instead of the elevator. To get the most benefits of exercise, you have to aim for about 30 minutes every day. Also, for the last one is sunshine. Okay? We feel so much better when the sun is out. So the sun has this special thing just to lift up our mood. So try to get at least 15 minutes of sunshine per day. This can be done while exercising, socialization, during this time working in our garden and our flower and doing other things. Even pulling your favorite chair close to the window and keeping the curtain up. That can help also. This part, we're going to talk about mental health and stress. So there's some stress that are good, and too much stress is bad. If we think, I'm going to start with the stress that is good. We all need a little bit of stress in our life, so that is kind of a gives us motivation. And too much stress can affect your life, your physical life, and also your mental health life. So mental health and stress are positively correlated. So when we have negative stress and we are unable to proper cope with that stress, it creates a poor mental health. But as mentioned above, good stress does exist and can create a good mental health. Good stress in some situation can help motivate us to focus on given tasks or take the action required to problem solve. Stress is manageable and can be helpful. When individuals are experiencing unhelpful stress, people may become overwhelmed and feel like they can't problem solve and will lead to them avoiding the other problems, creating a larger problem. This will have negative effect on mental health as people will have a harder time concentrating, making decisions, and feeling confident when faced with stress. So what does stress look like? So stress, it's a feeling of anxiousness, fear, uncertainty, and impatience. We feel weighted down, always playing catch up. Uh, Certain signs and symptoms could be headaches, backaches, stomach aches, our muscle tighten up, and we get cold because our immune system goes lower and it's harder to fight colds and flu. And we become short-tempered and absent-minded. We also begin overindulge in coffee, food, cigarettes, and alcohol. So at some point, we begin to experience health issues if we don't get our stress management. If we don't manage our stress well, then we can get into health issues like diabetes, high blood pressure, ulcers, high cholesterol. So we deal with a change in our attitude and perhaps more negative. We can experience insomnia. Once we reach this point, we have too much stress in our life, and it's not motivational anymore. It's a clear hazard to our health and well being. So it's very important to note here that everyone will have these symptoms, and stress affects everyone differently. So it's important to manage our stress. And how can you manage our stress? The first thing is to identify what stresses you. Okay. And then you make a list what stresses you, and you work on one thing at a time. If we look at the big picture, it's going to overwhelm us. So it's always good to look at one thing at a time and work on one thing at a time. Where do you think personal stress can come from? So it can come from financial, struggling from, we worry a lot for of our finance, and some people is not just long-term financial, but also getting paid to pay is familiar for a lot of families. There's relationships with each partner who is under stress. Sometimes we tend to take out our frustration on those we love and who are closest to us. We expect them to understand. Perhaps we need to stop and think that they have stressors of their own that they're trying to deal with also. Change and demand, that's another thing that can stress us. Change is very difficult for most people, and it can change in relationship. A change for like a child going off to university, maybe changing in home environment. We fear the unknown as human, and if we have a negative attitude, then the unknown is all we can focus on. Sometimes there can be a lot of demands, so demand from the family, demands from our workplace, control, resources. So for control, for people who tend to like control, dealing with a long-term stressor that we have any control over it. It sometimes feels like things are more out of control. A little step back and take a better look and ask ourselves, what is in my control and what is not? So it's very important to look at what we control and what we cannot. That really helps our mental health. Aging parents. Now we are living in a world where people are living longer. So we might have aging parents that we have to take care of. They might not be able to take care of themselves anymore, and we have to place them in a senior home, or even maybe we have to bring them with us because they're not able to do stuff for themselves. There's also support, social, and cultural that can have stress, can cause stress. How can we manage our stress? So what do you think you can do about your stress level? Like I said earlier, identify the problem, solve problems as they come up. And if you have too many problems, well, like I said, list them and work on them one at a time. Talk about your problems. So by talking, if you have an understanding partner, you can talk to your partner, a friend, even a therapist. Simplify your life. Learn helpful thinking strategies. Go have fun. If you enjoy fishing, there's nothing better to help with your stress than going fishing. You're in the nature, close to the water, like sleep, eating well. We have to take time for yourself and relax, exercise, enjoyable, meaning activities. And the most important that I really like is turning our phone from time to time. In this day of age, we often have our phone always in our hand. But to relax and take care of our mental health, it's important to turn off our phone. Building mental health wellness, well, we can manage our stress, exercise regularly, eat a healthy diet, improve our self-esteem, like I talked earlier, adapt to changes, deal with emotions, find inner peace, or compliment of the hardest thing to. It's easy to give compliments, but it's not easy to receive compliments. So if someone says, "Oh, you have a nice sweater," you just say thank you. Some people will just say, "Oh, this old thing, I took it at Frenchie's." There's no thank you. Just accept compliments. It makes you feel better. Also, get involved in your community by volunteering, by giving back, by maybe helping someone in this hard time by doing them a little care package and dropping it on their steps. So, and that makes you feel better, and that helps with your mental health. Uh, I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna answer questions if you guys have any questions. Here I have a comment. Oh, sorry about that. I walk for 2 hours per day, and it really helps my mental health. Absolutely. I know even walking for 15-30 minutes helps our mental health a lot. So does any of you have any questions? Is there anything that you didn't understand, want more information? My email is in the chat, so if there is, if you guys have any questions that comes up after the presentation, feel free to send me an email and I'll answer it the best that I can. So at the moment, if there is no more questions, I'm gonna wish you a good rest of the week. And also, I'm just going to remind you of the survey that once I shut my screen off, the survey should come up. And I really encourage you to answer or fill out that survey. And I also encourage you to go see our site. So have a good rest of the day, have a good rest of the week, and take care.